And welcome to the Peterson Event Center for today's Jeff Capel Show. And we've got a big show. Probably the strongest part of your program is going to join us. We'll explain. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's Alumni weekend. There's a lot going on. There's an early Millennium Pitt player that's going to join us as well on the show. But, Jeff, I want to start with this. So I got this new blazer because I wanted to look better on the show. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but I left the tag on. I just had to rip this thing off.
Yeah.
You ever done anything like that?
I have. Sometimes if the vents in the back, you're supposed to let those out.
Oh, I probably didn't do that either.
I was trying
you
to
looking?
Look to see
Yeah, there's probably didn't.
I can't see, but yeah, I've done that. I've done it on the arm too. I have done that.
At first I thought, oh, that's supposed to be there, and I'm like, no, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Now you don't wear a tie when you coach. Is that something that you thought of? Is it a superstition? Why?
I've worn ties before. I just, I for the life of me, I can't understand why basketball coaches are the only coaches that wear suits. I don't really get it. A football coach maybe has on some khakis and a polo or a sweatshirt or some sweatpants.
Or a hoodie.
Or a hoodie. A baseball manager has on a uniform. But basketball coaches are the only ones that wear. Every year we have a game for Coaches versus Cancer where you wear sneakers. And it's the most comfortable, that you are on the sidelines. And so I just decided this year that I wasn't going to wear a tie. I am pretty superstitious. And so when we played initially it was okay, I'll wear a tie on the road, but at home I won't. When we played at Robert Morris, I wore a tie and we won. And so our next true road game, I wore a tie. I think that was North Carolina, the first game. And I wore a tie. And we were down at half. And so I took it off. As I was walking out on the court for the second half, I took the tie off. And we ended up winning. And so I said from that point, I'm going no tie all the time. For me, it's just about comfort. That's it. And trying to be as comfortable as possible. I haven't got to the point. I want to get to the point where I wear sneakers with tie, with the suit. We have to win a little bit more for me to do that.
Now you could go full Huggins, like the pullover.
I think it's awesome. But he also has over 800 wins, so you can do that sort of thing when you win that much.
I think you can do whatever you want, pretty much at that.
You should be able to, absolutely.
At that point. You may see him on the bench. He's huge, and he's a real key part of what the Pitt basketball program does. We'll tell you who that is when we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. Every member of the Pitt basketball program has a huge role. We welcome in the man who really makes sure this team goes. Physically, mentally, probably emotionally at times. He is the fourth-year strength and conditioning coach, Gary Christopher. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Jeff, it's interesting. We were at the road trip at Duke, and I got on the elevator, and Gary was on, and I was in shorts, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, you going to the gym?" I said, "Yeah." And, it's a typical hotel gym, a couple of treadmills and some free weights. And I said, "Oh," and he was in sweatpants. I said, "Oh, you going to the gym?" He paused for a half second. There's nothing for me in there.
Not enough weights.
Not enough weight. And so I meekly then headed off to the gym and said, I'm good. They got enough for me. But Gary, I know, Jeff, Gary is so key to what you do. And before I have you ask, I want Gary to tell us a little bit about your background. I know you've been at a couple other schools, and you played college basketball at the start of your college career.
Believe it or not, back when I was a $1.85.
You were a $1.85?
I was a $1.85. Those times are long, of course. But no, blessed and fortunate to be around the game my entire life. Started off at a small school called Eternal University, Longview, Texas. Transferred after my first year to Baylor University, where I finished my undergraduate career. Further went on to receive a master's at San Diego State University, and then I received my first full-time position at Purdue University, assisting with both men's basketball, but also a few other sports, women's tennis, softball as well, and then received my first full-time working with men's basketball only at Vanderbilt University, now here at the University of Pittsburgh.
Jeff, what did you like What first struck out besides his size?
Yeah. Well, really it was his energy and his passion, for the position. When I took this job, I wasn't sure if Gary wanted to stay. I had heard that maybe he was looking to leave. And before I came up here for the press conference, the strength coach at Duke, who I'm very close with, texted me. Actually, I reached out to him and said, I'm going to need to hire a strength coach. And I'm going to lean on you because I don't know anyone. And he was like, I'll have you some names, but if you can keep the guy that's there, he's really good. And I said to him, well, I'm not sure he wants to stay. I heard that he didn't want to stay. And he told me, he was like, well, I've talked to him. You should talk to him. And so when I came up here for the press conference, did all of that, and then a little bit later that afternoon, my head was spinning, Gary came in and we met. And I said to him, look, I've heard that you didn't want to stay. And he was like, no, that's not the case. I don't know where you heard that, but that's not true. And so right then I felt like I had my strength coach. And again, I trusted, Will Stevens at Duke. I trusted him and the things that he said about Gary. And then as I got to know him more, number one, he has an incredible passion for the guys, not just for them and but for them as people, for young men, and trying to help them grow and become men, and to help prepare them for the real world. Gary has a very incredible background, his family, and they've always been about giving and about helping others. And so that jumped off the page for me. And then how much he cared for those guys. When I got here, these guys, it was a hard thing for them. And I had incredible empathy for them. And Gary was very close with them. And he was there. He was kind of the guy that they went to. One of the things that I learned, and I learned this when I took the job at Oklahoma, how important a really good strength coach is. When I was at VCU, we had a guy, he was in charge of the whole athletic department. The school wasn't that big, didn't have a lot of money. And so our strength coach at VCU did every sport. And so when I went to Oklahoma, that was the first time I had my own strength coach. And so I realized how important that position is, because it's the person that's with the guys more than anybody. And I felt very lucky that he wanted to stay and that we were able to keep him. And he's been an incredible blessing to me, our staff. He's part of our staff, but for our program.
All right, I want to ask Gary, I want to ask you about those relationships. I also want to ask you about the role of technology and what that's played in setting up training and how you guys execute training as we continue. It's the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network.
McGowan pulls up and he hits it. X-Man jam. Woo!
McGowan's against the bigger trail with a lob to Champagny.
To Ryan Murphy for the three. Yes. Wow. And the place is on fire.
We're joined by Pitt strength and conditioning coach Gary Christopher. And Gary, how much has technology, even in the time that you've been doing it, changed how you approach training?
It has advanced significantly over the past 4 to 5 years, or even past decade. The old school model was just get down, lift, bench, squat, push, by any means. Nowadays, it's more of a repetitive / cumulative effort in terms of syncing technology along with your training.
I think of like Rocky IV, when Drago's doing all the equipment and Rocky's like lifting boulders and running through the snow. But is it kind of a mix where you don't want to lose all the old school, but you want to bring technology. Is that kind of what it's like?
Yeah, for myself, I hold a different stance. I think that it's a complement or actually just a tool in the toolbox, in which I first and foremost believe that you have to use your coaching instinct first. You're put in this position because you're an expert at what you do. Maybe not the best, but you know what you're doing. So you have a knowledge base in how to operate systems and train athletes. And so this just kind of helps complement what you do on a daily basis. But also for our program, we use it more so as a fatigue management standpoint.
Do you monitor steps? Do you have monitors that guys wear?
I don't know about steps, but yes, it can take into account a various number of metrics. Our metrics are different. Everybody can synchronize it to how they choose. For us, it's wearables that our guys put on their backs each and every day, in which we track what's called player load, the volume of a given practice, simultaneously by each second. And when we get those numbers, it gives us a profile in which we can kind of understand the volume and intensity in which our guys trained at that given day.
How much does it change over the year? Like I imagine when you get to this point in the season, there's a line of keeping guys strong and yet not wearing them out.
For sure. And that's where, of course, the constant communication with myself and Jeff comes into play, in which, I mean, there's honestly, on my side, there's not a ton that I have to do. Of course, monitoring and running the technology is time consuming, but you talk about a head coach who already gets it. He's been there, he's seen it at a high level, so he understands. It's other colleagues that are here that have to fight the battle with the head coach and taking the data to them and them suggesting, well, I don't care about that new stuff. You know what I mean?
Old school coach.
Old school coaches, exactly. And so it helps for myself when I give it to him and he actually has questions, or he's very in tune into what's going on.
We used to do defensive slides with bricks in our hands. I mean, which is
You'll get
effective
fired these days for that.
Because if you drop one of those, I mean, it's over.
You can't do this. That's the other thing. Yeah. Stuff you can't do anymore that you used to be able to do, that we did when I played. And you have to be really careful with a lot of this stuff now.
You've been in this situation, but is the weight room or the training area, is it kind of a sanctuary too for players where you mentioned relationships where they can say stuff and you guys can do that?
I think so. I think so. I know Gary has relationships with guys that are authentic and they tell him stuff. They'll share things with him that they won't, certainly not with me, and sometimes not even my assistants. And I think that's a testament to the relationship that he's built. Most guys, especially guys that want to get better, they want to be in the weight room. You know, just as a guy, because you want to see your body change. You want to be able, it's always interesting to me. We have freshmen come in and they play pickup shirts and skins. They don't want to be skins. And after a summer with Gary, they all want to be skins. So I see them shooting, they're walking around with no shirt. But I think, you know, to me, the training room, this is just my opinion, the training room is delicate. I think it can be a place where guys can use as a crutch at times.
So when they leave out that door, what do you tell them about nutrition? Because it's easy, especially when you're college, it's like, man, SpaghettiOs are $1. I'm going to go grab that. I'm going to go grab some ramen, you know, but, you know, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because as high school seniors or as incoming freshmen, that's where the biggest learning curve or the adjustment takes place. Is you'll see a lot of guys and you just have to teach them everything. You know, for some of our guys, for example, hydrating to them consists of Capri Suns and Squeeze-Its. And as long as I drink 4 to 5 a day, I'm good. And it's really taking the time to understand the fueling for performance, what that truly means. And so the two go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. They cannot, they have to coexist. And so that is definitely a piece in which they come in, we're honing in on day one.
Well, Gary, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your time. Congrats on all you do.
Thank you.
I mean, really, people don't see, but they see the results. They see the bodies that go out on that court, and congrats, man.
Thank you so much.
When we come back, he started every game for a Sweet 16 Pitt team and had a huge run one year in the Big East tournament. It's one of those millennial Panthers is going to join us, and we'll meet him as we continue the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network.
about to just, mold me who I am.
Pitt just has it all.
Everyone is on their feet.
Hail to Pitt. We just witnessed history.
Pitt Beyond the Script, weekly on AT&T Sportsnet.
And welcome back to the Jeff Capel Show here at the Peterson Events Center. He started 37 games his senior year, shot 40% from three that year, was a key player on 4 NCAA tournament teams, one of a select group of former Pitt players that can say they played professional basketball in Pittsburgh. We're joined by former Panthers guard Antonio Graves. Antonio, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. When you think of your days here at Pitt, what memories just come out to you?
First of all, it was a dream come true for me to be able to play in the Big East and to play at that level. And, I'm forever grateful for Coach James Dixon for giving me that opportunity. But just the culture, it was a really, great culture, team culture that we had. Great seniors, that had freshmen like me coming in that kind of nurtured me and mentored me coming in. Just really being in the environment, at the Peterson Center, every game with the zoo behind you, it was amazing for me.
I remember that run in the Big East tournament. I think you had 18 against Villanova as you guys upset the Wildcats to get the championship game, and I think you had 14 against Syracuse in that game. What do you remember about that run, and what was it like to play in that tournament?
Wow, it was amazing. Madison Square Garden doesn't get, it doesn't get bigger than the Mecca, right? So, that was like a second home for us. We traveled well when it came to the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden. We had a lot of New York guys on the team, and so it felt like, we had home court advantage. And, I guess what I can take from that is that, it was really easy to play there, and I feel like we always had momentum in those games. And I feel like I said, it was just it was a home away from home.
Antonio, what's going on, man? Appreciate you being on.
Oh, Coach K, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm great. You mentioned a second ago about, the team culture and the seniors mentored you. You mentioned culture and mentorship, and as you know, we're trying to rebuild this thing now. And so tell me, can you elaborate on that? What seniors mentored you as a freshman and just the culture that you walked into?
Well, I've been paying a lot close attention to college ball lately, and I know now there's not many seniors. It's not a group of seniors. You're not just having one class that's been built and groomed over a course of time, over 4 years, period, where the seniors can actually mentor. So it's really young core that you're dealing with now in today's college game. But to elaborate on that, it was just you knew you was coming into a situation where you were established and you can learn from someone in front of you, right? And just you're following that path, and it made it really easy to transition into your role, wherever it may be, and to really compete. And it was a certain type of pedigree there where we knew coming in that each guy, like Julius was my mentor, and Jerron Brown, and these guys are seniors who, guys who kind of built the program from the core. So I already knew what to expect in the weight room. I already knew what to, expect getting in early for, extra shots and after and all of that and those things, and staying on my books because they had already, had already established that. So it was kind of, it just made it more easier for the freshmen and sophomores to transition into their role.
There were no free days when those two were on the court, were there?
Oh, no, absolutely not. So, that's the thing, one of the things that comes to mind is practices were so tough. Practices were so important that it actually made the game so much easier. And that was what was a shock to me. I used to, being a freshman, Coach Dixon had put me in the fire some big games, and it never really compared to really, how we pounded and went after each other in practice. So obviously the officiating and everything was a lot more easier.
I was going to say, you came in with Aaron Gray. Now, there are guys, and we had Gary Christopher, the strength and conditioning coach here. There are guys that come in and they build and they become big. Aaron was the one guy as a freshman, I remember, this guy's mammoth. What do you remember about first meeting Aaron Gray and what he meant to you guys?
Oh, meeting Aaron. When I met Aaron, I was his roommate in Southern. I don't know if you guys still have the freshman hall there, but well, Aaron's deal was he had to lose weight, so he was always in there with Coach Tim Belts. Before practice, after practice, you made him pay attention to what he eating and all of those types of things. But he was such a hard worker. That was the thing. He was like, all of us had something to fight for because you had the name. You had the name to live up to. You had, that certain expectation. So we pushed each other in that way to, stay in the gym and meet those expectations.
What, did he get the top bunk? How did that work?
Yes, absolutely. Aaron definitely got the top with his feet hanging off the edge.
Seriously?
Yes, it was hilarious.
You need to post some pictures of that. You need to get on social media and post some pictures of that.
It's probably a good thing for Aaron. It wasn't like it is now. Or he'd have been in trouble.
Oh, man, amazing times, really.
Antonio, hang with us. You played all over the world. I want to discuss international basketball with you and also your thoughts on the current program because I know you're coming back for a big alumni weekend. It's the Jeff Capel Show here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. And welcome back. We are joined by Antonio Graves. And Antonio, I know you played a lot of places, but people may not realize you played here for the Pittsburgh Explosion, which was short-lived. What do you remember about that group?
Wow, yeah, that was my big break into the professional, that jump-started my professional career. Actually, I honestly didn't think that I would have a professional career until that happened. They were sort of an expansion team at that time, and I was in school to finish up a couple credits. And I remember getting a call from the coach, and, saying that they drafted me, and me and two other guys that played, John DeGroat and Carl Krauser. And they wanted me to come in, and I really wasn't sure if I even wanted to do it. I asked them if they could work around my class schedule, and they said they could. I was still, really in great shape because I was still working out with the guys. So when it just turned out to be a great opportunity. It's unbelievable that, I had to pay my dues there. Once I got there, apparently it was guys that had, were like veterans there in the CBA at the time, and I had to work my way up through the ranks there. And once I got my opportunity, I just, made the most of it.
What's it like playing overseas, guys? Jeff, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I didn't like it only because, I was coming off of an injury. And so it was a difficult time for me. I ruptured a disc in my back getting ready for the Chicago pre-draft camp. And so I went from possibly being, a late first-round pick to undrafted. And I played my first year out of school in the CBA, and then I had to miss a year. My second year out, I missed. I got the stomach disease and whatever. And so after I got cleared with that, my back injury started coming up again. I was at Summer League, getting ready to go to Summer League with the Golden State Warriors, and they sent me home. They did a X-ray or whatever on my back, and I had bone on my spine. And so I had to come back and have surgery. And the biggest mistake that I made, I had surgery maybe the second week of July, and the second week of August, I was on a plane going to France to play. And so France for me was difficult because I wasn't completely healthy. I didn't have the explosion. My mind was still sharp. I could see I can hit this, but I couldn't. Physically, I couldn't do it.
How about you, Antonio?
That's really interesting. He touched on some very important points. One is like your injuries, right?
Yeah.
You don't have the same
the
same type of training staff that you have at Division I university. So you really have to, take care of yourself and, do the extra little things that you need to do, ice, stretch, and foam roll, because you're not going to get that same type of treatment. And I think that's a shock for guys who are leaving, especially, places like Duke or Pitt. But for me, again, I was blessed. I was truly blessed to have a group of veteran Americans who, just nurture me, talk to me about the ins and outs and just kind of wanted me to be the guy and told me what I was here for. Like, you're here to shoot the ball, you're here to score, like you're a foreigner. You're not, because I was a glue guy at Pitt. I was a glue guy, and I embraced that role, and I loved it. And I loved being a part of the team, where I was considered, our team's best defender at the time. So, and just a spot-up shooter. So, once I got overseas, it's like, you have to score. So I was like, okay. And I just had a good, I had a great, group of guys, a good coach who pushed me and, wanted me to be my best. So those are two important things. Oh, and the other thing, those are the two important things that he touched on that really helped me so much to continue on my career.
Tell me, what's your favorite memory during your time as a player here at Pitt?
I have two. My freshman year, when we won the Big East championship, I think that's when they had East and West or something like that. That was my first taste of, like, wow, this is winning at this level is everything. And then the second one was, anytime we was in the Big East tournament, we played Louisville, I think in my senior year, and we were like down like maybe 18, 19 at the half. And it was probably like my best game of my career, and I was part of a comeback in that game, and I think I had 24 points, 5 threes or something, and a nice sweet dunk at the end. That was so for me, those are my fondest memories. And just obviously, again, just being able to be at Pitt and be at that level. I actually got my scholarship at the last minute. I think a guy backed out. He decommitted or whatever, and I guess I was the next guy on the list. So that was my dream that came true for being at Pitt. I was really gonna run through a big wall for Coach Dixon in that group.
And look what it's meant to you. I think it's really awesome, and you're going to be here for Alumni Weekend and have a great time. And we'll see you here on Saturday.
Okay, thanks for having me. Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.
We'll ask Jeff about his thoughts on the ACC. Georgia Tech is here on Saturday, 2 o'clock start here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network. Georgia Tech comes in here 2 o'clock on Saturday. They have 4 players averaging in double figures, and I know Jose Alvarado, 16 a game in the ACC.
Really hot right now. If you go over the last 5 games, it's about 19 a game, and the percentages are way up there. I think they're a really good team. I think they're old, they're experienced, they've been together, they have really good size, they have a veteran point guard that's as competitive as anyone in this league. Their leading scorer overall is a sophomore guard, DeVoe, who plays at such a great pace. I think they're very, very talented.
Another high percentage team shooting too.
Very high percentage. They have not shot the 3 well, knock on wood, but Alvarado driving, DeVoe driving. They have those big guys inside. Moses Wright has made a big jump from a sophomore to a junior and has really looked like an incredibly high-level player.
The last few seconds here, what was your message to your team after last night?
My message was that we have to play 40 minutes, and we can't have guys not show up. Everyone needs to come with energy right at the start, and we have to bring it, and we have to figure out a way to sustain it for 40 minutes.
All right, Coach. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
Georgia Tech is here on Saturday, 2 o'clock start here on the Pitt Panthers Radio Network.